So they finally started asking around, didn't they? The investigators, the curious ones, the people who thought they could unravel what happened to you by digging through your past. But here's the poetic part, the truth that should make you smile in the dark. Nobody wanted to talk, not a single person. They reached out to the friends who betrayed you, the lovers who destroyed you, the family who abandoned you, the co-workers who sabotaged you, and every last one who thought they had broken you. And what did they get? Silence, nervous laughter, awkward excuses. Then the same phrase, whispered like a warning etched in stone. Good luck. You'll need it. Let that sink in. The very people who once held power over you, the ones who made you doubt your worth, who walked away as if you were nothing, who smiled while stabbing you in the back, who celebrated your downfall, those same people are now quiet. Because when your name comes up, they feel something, a shift, a chill. They realize too late that the person they destroyed didn't stay destroyed, and now they're terrified, not of what you did, but of what you became. Because revenge is loud, messy, predictable. But evolution? Evolution is silent, precise, and it doesn't announce itself until it has already rewritten the entire game. They thought they knew you. They thought they had you figured out, boxed in, labeled, dismissed. They thought you were weak because you cried. They thought you were defeated because you went quiet. They thought you were broken because you stopped fighting back. But what they never understood, blinded by their arrogance and shallow little perspectives, was that you weren't breaking. You weren't breaking. You were downloading. Every betrayal, every harsh word, every moment that felt like it might destroy you, was information being written into your core. You were absorbing it all like data, analyzing every pattern of deceit, every manipulation, every false smile. You were learning the operating system of betrayal from the inside out. Each wound became a line of code. Each humiliation became a command that redefined your programming. They thought they were breaking you down, but all they were doing was debugging your old self. You were learning the algorithm of human cruelty and mastering it in silence. You didn't react. You recalibrated. You didn't collapse. You compiled. Every sleepless night was a system update, every tear a reboot. You were being rewritten, rebuilt, version by version, into something stronger, sharper, and infinitely more aware. You were becoming fluent in pain, fluent in manipulation, fluent in power. The system that tried to destroy you became your textbook. You learned its logic by surviving it. And when it finally thought it had deleted you, you reappeared, rebuilt, upgraded, unstoppable. And now, when they hear your name, something inside them shifts. Their stomach drops, their hands shake. Their voices catch for a split second before they force a smile. Because they know. They know the truth that gnaws at them in the dark. That they didn't just hurt you, they forged you. Every betrayal, every cruel decision, every time they dismissed your pain, they were shaping the very person who now haunts them. They didn't destroy you. They created their own reckoning. They built their own ghost. So, let's talk about what really happened when they started making those calls. Sending those messages, trying to gather intel like desperate archaeologists digging up bones they'd buried. They were looking for closure, for a sense of control, for some proof that you were still beneath them. But this isn't just about people refusing to talk, it's about people refusing to remember. Refusing to admit that they saw what they saw when they looked at you after everything. No rage, no breakdown, no tears. Just that cold, unwavering surgical clarity. That look, the one that freezes blood. The one that says, I see you now. I see exactly what you are. And I'll never unsee it. That silence that hums like static in their minds. The kind of quiet that speaks louder than words, vibrating at a frequency they'll never decode. Because that's the moment they realized you weren't the broken one. You were the reflection. You became their mirror. Every lie, every betrayal, every hidden cruelty. They saw it all staring back at them through your calm. That's why they can't speak your name without flinching. That's why they avoid the topic altogether. You didn't just survive them, you exposed them. Here's what actually went down. They picked up the phone, hesitated, and finally typed out the message. "Hey, I'm trying to understand what happened with so-and-so. You knew them pretty well, right? What's the story?" And when the reply came, it was always the same. "Look, I don't really want to get into it. Just be careful, that's all I'll say. Good luck. You'll need it." Then silence. Conversation over. Nobody wanted to be the one to explain. Nobody wanted to confess, because they all knew deep down they poked the bear, and the bear didn't roar, the bear evolved. You learned their language, studied their habits, and then walked away without a word. No revenge, no confrontation, just absence. And that absence became the loudest thing in their world. Because revenge they could understand, silence they can't. Revenge ends a story. Silence rewrites it. And you didn't give them closure. You gave them uncertainty. You left them alone with their guilt, replaying every moment, wondering what version of you is out there now, and whether they'd even recognize you if they saw you again. They wanted control. They wanted a narrative, something simple they could repeat. Oh yeah, they went crazy, they couldn't handle it, they're bitter now. But they can't say that because it's a lie. The truth is, you handled it better than they ever could. You didn't just survive, you transcended. You didn't collapse, you transformed. You took betrayal and refined it into discipline. You took heartbreak and forged it into clarity. You took isolation and molded it into independence. You didn't just rise, you ascended. Now when they see you or even hear your name, there's a flicker in their eyes. A quiet panic that betrays the calm on their face. Because they realize they're not looking at the same person. They're looking at someone who has moved beyond their understanding. Someone who's reached a level they can't access. You're not operating in the same emotional economy anymore. You're in another dimension entirely. And ascension is irreversible. Once you learn to breathe at a higher altitude, you can't go back to the ground. So let's get specific. Let's talk about the ex who cheated because they thought you'd never walk away. The friend who spread lies because they needed to feel above you. The boss who humiliated you to feed their own insecurity. The parent who abandoned you because your strength made them feel small. What happens when someone asks them, "So, what happened between you two?" They freeze, their throat closes, their eyes shift. Because how do you explain that you hurt someone who didn't deserve it, and instead of breaking, they evolved into something you can't even define? You don't. You deflect. You mumble. You lie. Because deep down, they know the truth. They didn't destroy you. They awakened something they never should have touched. Something ancient. Something sovereign. You didn't become cold. You became clear. You didn't lose your heart. You learned how to guard it. You didn't become distant. You became rare. And that rarity is what terrifies them the most. Because you are no longer something they can reach, manipulate, or diminish. You've become the lesson. They'll remember you in fragments, in the quiet moments between their lies, in the guilt that creeps in at night. They'll remember the look in your eyes, the stillness in your voice, the way you didn't flinch when everything fell apart. Because you weren't falling. You were ascending. And once you ascend, once you learn to exist in truth rather than reaction, you stop being a person in their story. You become the ending. How do you admit that you expected someone to shatter completely? To cry, to beg, to break down so you could feel justified in what you did. But instead, they vanished into silence and came back as something you can't even name? How do you tell anyone? I pushed them too far and now I can't sleep. I see their face every night. Not angry, not hurt, just calm, cold, aware. It's like they already moved beyond me, like I'm the one trapped in the wreckage of what I caused. You can't say that. There are no words that make that sound reasonable. So instead they say good luck, those two words that seem harmless, but carry an undertone of fear. It's not a farewell. It's a confession disguised as a courtesy. It's code for I don't know what they've become, but I know it's something I don't want to be on the wrong side of. And here's what they'll never admit. You didn't lift a finger against them. You didn't send a message, post a rant, or air dirty laundry. You didn't threaten, you didn't seek revenge, you just changed. You withdrew your energy, reclaimed your power, and shifted into a completely different frequency. You started operating from silence, not reaction. You didn't chase closure, you became it. That's what terrifies them, because confrontation they can control. They can twist confrontation, turn it into another performance, reframe the story to make themselves look like the victim. But transformation, that leaves them defenseless. You can't argue with someone who has outgrown you. You can't manipulate someone who has become immune to your chaos. They expected you to scream. Instead, you became still. They expected you to seek revenge. Instead, you built a new life. They expected to see your pain on display. Instead, you erased your presence from their world. And that silence, that disappearance became unbearable. Because transformation isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It just changes the air around you until even your absence becomes a reminder of everything they lost. The truth that keeps them awake at night is simple. They hurt someone powerful and didn't realize it until too late. They treated your empathy like weakness, your patience like submission, your forgiveness like permission. And by the time they understood who they were dealing with, the damage was irreversible. You had already evolved. You had already rewritten yourself from the inside out. You had become someone they couldn't touch, couldn't read, couldn't reduce. Now let's talk about that phrase. Good luck? You'll need it. On the surface, it sounds dismissive, even smug. But deep down, it's a surrender. A white flag wrapped in sarcasm. It's not a joke. It's a warning drenched in guilt. It's the sound of someone realizing they've lost control of the narrative. When they say it, what they're really saying is, I don't know who they are anymore. The version of you they remember, the one who tolerated, who trusted too easily, who tried to fix everything, is gone. And what stands in your place now? Someone they can't manipulate, can't predict, can't defeat. Someone who absorbed every betrayal, turned every scar into strategy, and every heartbreak into high ground. That's not arrogance, that's the physics of evolution. You were forged in a pressure they couldn't have survived. They were playing with matches, and you became the fire. While they were scheming for validation, you were studying patterns. While they were gossiping, you were growing. You learned to channel your pain into precision, your grief into growth. You stopped trying to prove your worth to people who couldn't even recognize their own. And the result? You reached a frequency they can't tune into. You became untouchable. Not because you built walls, but because you built altitude. Imagine the scene. Someone who once betrayed you gets asked about you. Maybe it's a mutual friend catching up, maybe a new person in your circle doing their homework, maybe even a potential employer, partner, or collaborator trying to get a sense of your past. And suddenly their chest tightens. They freeze. They hesitate because they know that every word they say is a mirror reflecting them. They can't trash you without sounding bitter. They can't lie without exposing their guilt. They can't tell the truth without confessing what they did, so they deflect. I don't really want to talk about it, just be careful. They're different now. And what they really mean is, I'm not who I was after what I saw in them. They're not warning others about you, they're warning others about themselves. They're saying, I crossed someone who turned suffering into strength, and now I live with the memory of that. Because once you transform like that, you become a mirror to everyone still living in denial. You reflect back what they refuse to face. You expose every falsehood they use to survive themselves. And that reflection, It's unbearable. Here's the part they'll never say out loud. When they see you now, whether it's a passing glimpse, a photo online, or even just hearing your name, the world around them slows for a moment. There's that flicker of recognition mixed with disbelief. You're not performing anymore. You're not explaining, defending, or proving. You're not begging to be understood. You've detached completely from their dimension. And that detachment is the sharpest revenge there is. Because you didn't just stop caring. You stopped existing in the same emotional reality. They notice it in your eyes first. That steadiness that unnerves them. That quiet, grounded confidence that can't be faked. You're not cold. You're composed. You're not bitter. You're beyond it. You're not seeking validation. You are validation. You carry yourself like someone who doesn't need the world to understand them, because you've already understood yourself. That's what disturbs them the most. The stillness. The peace. Because peace is power, and they never expected you to find it. And when others talk about you now, there's an energy in the room, an unspoken weight. People sense that there's more to your story than what's been told. They can feel it in the way your name hangs in the air, in the hesitation of those who wronged you, in the way even your silence demands respect. You've become something different, something beyond explanation. You're not part of their past, you're their unfinished lesson. You're the consequence they never anticipated, the calm after the storm that turned out to be the storm itself. You've become the embodiment of what happens when pain meets purpose, when loss meets evolution, when silence meets strength. They can't categorize you anymore because you're not a chapter in their story. You're the entire rewrite of it. You don't haunt them out of vengeance. You haunt them because you survived in a way they can't comprehend. You turned their betrayal into your rebirth. You didn't just move on. You transcended. And now, they'll spend the rest of their lives pretending not to notice what they lost, all while being quietly consumed by the realization that they once knew someone who became extraordinary, and they were the reason why. You exist now with an energy that doesn't waver, a steady, silent force that doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. It's not pride, it's not coldness, it's clarity. That calm, deliberate confidence that says, I know exactly who I am, and I don't need you to understand. And that, more than anything, terrifies people who only feel powerful when someone else is uncertain, because they feed on control, on reactions, on the chaos they can provoke in others. But you starved them. You removed the oxygen from their fire. You gave them nothing to feed on. Your strength isn't the loud, performative kind that needs an audience. It's not the kind that flexes or declares itself. It's woven into your essence, quiet but undeniable. It doesn't crumble when tested. It doesn't shout for validation. It just is. It's the kind of power that shifts the atmosphere when you walk into a room. People can't explain it, but they feel it. That gravitational pull. That steady, centered energy that makes them instinctively step back. They sense that you're not someone who can be influenced, not someone they can manipulate anymore. They feel small around you, even if you say nothing, especially because you say nothing. And that's when the realization hits them. They were never in your league. They never were. They just mistook your kindness for naivety, your empathy for weakness, your patience for permission. They didn't realize that your silence wasn't submission, it was observation. And now, looking back, it dawns on them that they weren't dealing with someone fragile. They were dealing with someone formidable, someone who had simply chosen restraint over retaliation. So yes, they started asking around. They wanted to know what happened to you, where you went, what you were doing, who you had become. But nobody wanted to talk, because talking means remembering, and remembering means guilt. It means facing the truth that they hurt someone exceptional and convinced themselves that person was expendable. They broke something sacred and called it weakness. They dismissed something irreplaceable and told themselves it was nothing. And now they're left with the void. Not the consequence of your revenge, you never needed revenge, but the consequence of their own emptiness. When you left, when you fell silent, you didn't just disappear. You took something with you. You took the light they siphoned off your presence, the warmth of your attention, the validation that made them feel important. You took the version of yourself they thought would always be available, and now they're left with the hollow echo of what they once had. They scroll through your old messages, replay memories, and try to convince themselves they made the right choice. But the silence says otherwise. That silence is deafening. It follows them into conversations, relationships, even their sleep. It's the sound of regret. Let's go deeper into what truly haunts them. It's not the arguments or the endings. They've made peace with those in their own minds. What haunts them are the subtle moments. The moment they realize you stopped checking their profiles. The moment they noticed you no longer reacted to their bait, no longer flinched at their attempts to provoke you. The moment they heard you were thriving, actually thriving, and couldn't comprehend it. Because in their version of the story, you were supposed to be broken, you were supposed to fade, to spiral, to need them. But instead, you vanished from their narrative completely, and the story lost its shape without you. Then someone mentioned your name in passing and their body betrayed them. A tightened jaw, a forced laugh, that sharp little pang behind the ribs they can't explain away. It's not anger. It's something far more corrosive. It's regret braided with fear. Because deep down they know they destroyed something pure, something genuine, something that didn't deserve the cruelty they gave it. They traded authenticity for ego, love for power, connection for control. And now they're haunted by the realization that they once had access to something rare, and they squandered it for nothing, for a fleeting high, for validation, for entertainment. Now they wonder if you think about them, if you ever miss them. But the silence answers for you. You don't. And that truth eats at them. Because if you hated them, they could live with that. Hatred keeps them relevant. But your indifference, your peace, that's unbearable. Because peace is the final verdict. Peace means they no longer exist in your emotional landscape. It means they lost their grip entirely, and that is something their ego cannot reconcile. But let's not romanticize the process of becoming untouchable. It wasn't easy. At first, it was lonely. It was disorienting. You questioned yourself constantly. You replayed every interaction, every word, wondering if maybe you were the problem. Maybe you were too intense, too deep, too much. You convinced yourself you should have been smaller, softer, easier to love. But then, something shifted. Slowly, you began to realize that being too much for people who were never enough isn't a flaw. It's truth revealing itself. You realize that being misunderstood by shallow minds is protection, not punishment. And the people who walked away, they weren't rejecting you. They were removing themselves from a frequency they couldn't survive in. They were pruning the path ahead of you, clearing space for something better, something aligned. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every disappointment was a redirection, not a defeat. They thought they were breaking you, but all they were doing was sculpting you, chiseling away everything that wasn't essential. And once you realized that, once you accepted that everything that left was supposed to, you stopped caring about their opinions. You stopped needing their closure, because the past is where they live, and you've outgrown that dimension entirely. Which brings us back to those words that echo behind every whisper of your name. Good luck, you'll need it. It's not casual, it's not funny. It's surrender disguised as sarcasm. It's fear in code. When they say it, what they really mean is, I don't understand them anymore. It's their way of acknowledging that they've lost access, that the person they once manipulated, once belittled, once underestimated, has become unrecognizable. It's an unspoken admission. I hurt them, and instead of falling apart, they transformed. And now I'm afraid of what that means. They can't put it into words, but they feel it. You're operating on a wavelength they can't reach. You're playing a game they don't even understand anymore. And that terrifies them, because transformation doesn't just change how you look. It changes what you radiate. You've become something they can't predict, can't label, can't diminish. Here's the truth. Revenge is easy. Revenge is reaction. It's predictable. It gives them a role in your story, something to fight against, a justification for their guilt. See, I was right about them. But transformation steals that from them. It leaves them with nothing. No closure, no defense, no narrative to cling to. Just the silence of your absence and the undeniable evidence of your growth. And that silence, it's louder than any vengeance ever could be. Your peace is punishment. Your success is the consequence they never prepared for. Your existence now, the way you carry yourself, the way you live unbothered, is the living proof of their mistake. You're not trying to make them regret it. You simply are their regret. Every move you make in freedom, every moment of quiet joy, every smile they'll never see again, it all cuts deeper than any revenge ever could. And that's the essence of true power. Not domination, not control, but detachment. The kind of power that doesn't seek attention because it commands it naturally. The kind that doesn't ask to be respected because it radiates respect. You've transcended their understanding entirely. You've become untouchable, not because you built walls, but because you built wings. And now every time they think of you, they're reminded of one simple, devastating truth. They mistook your silence for weakness, and your distance for defeat. But you weren't disappearing, you were evolving. And by the time they realized it, you had already risen beyond their reach, leaving them to drown in the emptiness they created. They're vindictive, they're manipulative, they're toxic to the core. People who thrive on control, chaos, and the illusion of power. They crave reaction because it validates them. They need to know they can still make you flinch, still pull the strings, still occupy space in your mind. But when you give them nothing, no anger, no closure, no explanation, when you simply evolve and move forward without a word, you take away everything they depend on. You strip them of their favorite drug, your pain. You remove their ability to cast themselves as the victim. You shatter the false narrative that allowed them to feel superior. And what's left? Just them. Exposed. Powerless. Forced to face the cold truth that they hurt someone who didn't deserve it. And that person didn't just survive, they became magnificent without them. That truth is corrosive. It eats away at them in private, in silence, in moments they can't control. It gnaws at their confidence, their identity, their carefully constructed lies. They may pretend they're unbothered, but that's just camouflage. The truth always finds its way in. Late at night, when distractions fade and they're left alone with their thoughts, it hits. That dull, relentless ache of realization. They were the villain in a story they told themselves they were winning. So what do? They warn people, not because they care about anyone's safety, but because they're protecting themselves. They build barriers of half-truths and coded language around your name. Because if someone new gets close to you, if someone sees you for who you are now, the power, the composure, the quiet strength, they might start asking questions. They might connect the dots. They might realize that the person these so-called warnings are about is the exact opposite of the image your former tormentors painted. They might realize you were the light in that dynamic, the real one, the stable one, the one who cared. And that terrifies them, because then the spotlight shifts, then the lie unravels. Then everyone sees them for what they really are, small, scared, shallow. So instead, they do what cowards always do. They deflect. They say things like, "Good luck," as if they're offering advice, when in truth, it's a projection. That phrase isn't protection, it's confession. It's them saying, I needed luck to deal with them and I still failed. It's them whispering, even if they don't realize it, they were too much for me, not because they were dangerous, but because they were real. Let's be honest, they were never equipped to handle someone like you. You were always the storm, and they were the kind of people who thought thunder was just noise until it hit too close. You were intensity, authenticity, rawness, and they mistook that for threat. They wanted control, and you gave them truth. They wanted dominance, and you gave them depth. They wanted an ego boost, and you gave them a mirror. And mirrors don't lie. That's what breaks people like them. Not rejection, not loss, but reflection. You showed them who they were, and they've been running from that image ever since. Let me tell you something about those who refuse to talk about you. They're not protecting your reputation. They're protecting their own fragility. To speak your name would mean to open the door to memories they've buried. It would mean admitting that they were wrong about you. It would mean admitting that they misjudged someone who turned out to be everything they claimed to want but couldn't handle when they had it. It would mean confessing that the problem wasn't you, it was them. And that level of accountability requires a kind of self-awareness they simply don't have. So they stay silent. They dodge questions. They pretend they don't remember. They say, I don't really want to talk about it, and hope that ends the conversation. But in that silence, in that evasive discomfort, they tell the whole story. Their avoidance is their confession. Every nervous laugh, every subject change, every awkward pause, it's all proof that you still hold space in their mind. You live rent-free in the quiet corners of their conscience. And in that silence you win, not because you fought, but because you grew past the need to fight. You evolved. You became something they can't touch, can't categorize, can't define. You transcended the level they're still stuck on. And that's the ultimate victory. Not revenge, not validation, but peace. Here's what's happening right now, whether you know it or not. Your name is circulating through rooms you've never entered. It's being whispered in conversations you'll never hear. People are asking questions, curious about the person you've become. And each time your name surfaces, there's that same hesitation, that flicker of tension, that quiet discomfort. Because you've become something undefinable. You're not the fragile version they remember. You're not the wounded one they walked away from. You're something else entirely, something they can't explain. You've become the kind of person that makes others pause before speaking, the kind of energy that lingers long after you've left a room. You've become a symbol of what transformation actually looks like. What happens when pain doesn't destroy you but refines you? You make people question themselves. You make them rethink how they treated you, what they said, what they believed. You make them wonder what they could have been if they had your resilience, your patience, your strength. And the truth that burns in their chest is this: they had a chance. They had front row access to something rare, something real. They were in the presence of someone extraordinary. And they threw it away for attention, for ego, for control, for the illusion of winning. And now they carry that awareness like a curse. Because once you realize you destroyed something pure, something genuine, there's no undoing it. That kind of regret doesn't fade, it festers. Meanwhile, you're out here moving freely, unbothered, unattached. You've detached from the entire narrative. You no longer exist in reaction to anyone. You don't need their apology, their closure, or their recognition. You are your own validation now. You are your own home. And while they spend their days pretending not to care, pretending they're unaffected, they're still looking over their shoulder. Because they know the truth they'll never say out loud. You were never theirs to break. They can't replicate your energy, can't replace your presence, can't recreate what they destroyed. So they try to rewrite the story to make themselves look less monstrous. But deep down they know the ending. They lost something irreplaceable. They lost someone who would have given them everything. And they'll spend the rest of their lives trying to fill that void with noise, distraction, and denial, But nothing will ever compare, because you don't just move on, you evolve in silence. You become living proof that pain doesn't destroy, it transforms. And that's what they'll never understand. You didn't win by revenge, you didn't win by proving them wrong, you won by outgrowing the battlefield. You won by walking away and never looking back. You won by becoming someone they could never imagine you'd become. Someone untouchable, unshakable, unstoppable. You won by living well, by living freely, by refusing to let their damage define your destiny. And now, every time they hear your name, every time someone mentions what you're doing, every time they catch a glimpse of how peaceful you've become, it cuts. It burns. Because you're no longer the story they tell. You're the reminder that they lost the best thing that ever happened to them. You've become the ghost that doesn't haunt but humbles. The proof that you can't destroy what was never dependent on your validation. You were always the storm. They were just standing too close when the thunder hit, mistaking your power for danger when it was really grace in motion. Let them ask, let them dig. Because the truth is simple. You're not the person they broke. You're the phoenix that rose from their ashes, the storm they never saw coming. Every time someone says, "Good luck, you'll need it," it's not a warning about you. It's a confession that they met something extraordinary and didn't realize it until it was gone. They keep checking, hoping for a sign, but you're gone for good. No closure, no return. You're not performing your healing, you're living it. Your silence, your absence, your peace. It all drives them mad because it proves they no longer matter. You didn't become cold. You became clear. You stopped fighting for people who never fought for you. You didn't need revenge. You evolved. And now they're left haunted by one truth. They tried to break you, but you became unbreakable. They tried to silence you, but you became undeniable. They tried to destroy you, and you became unstoppable. That's all for today. Dear Father, I pray for the growth of my faith. Help me trust you even when physical evidence is lacking. Let me believe in your perpetual presence, knowing you will never harm me. I understand that your thoughts for me are thoughts of prosperity and not harm to give me a good future. Thank you, gracious and eternal Father, for always listening to my voice. I offer up this prayer to you in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, for your love and provision. I am grateful for your presence in my life and the abundance you bring. If this video resonated with you, please like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with those who need to hear this message. Leave a comment below about your journey and how you are preparing for your own triumphant return. If you'd like to support our work, please consider contributing through Buy Me a Coffee. This helps us continually improve our content to offer you the best. The link to Buy Me a Coffee is in the description. No gift is too small. Whether it's a penny, a prayer, or a share, your generosity helps spread God's word and brings hope to others. Don't stop here. Watch our next video for powerful revelations about the signs that reveal you are the chosen one. We've enjoyed following this spiritual journey with you. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Keep shining brightly and embrace your destiny with courage. See you next time. Blessings to all the beautiful souls from the Enlighten wisdom.